Hello everyone, welcome to today's session. In this session we will cover two very important areas. That one will be D365 finance and operation, mostly that will be technical, and then there will be Power BI as well, Power BI embedded. And the third topic will be the integration between both. So by saying that, I will reveal in this video a complete end-to-end scenario in which you can see basically how to develop retail sales analytics as an example, which covers retail and commerce module using a Power BI using entity store to embed the same report in D365 finance and operation without the need of any incurring additional Power BI license costs. So it means that we will use Power BI embedded within D365 finance and operation interface to showcase basically retail sales analytics without additional Power BI license costs. As you know that the people who are working in Power BI, they need they are having different kind of licenses. So there is one free license, then there is a pro license and premium license. So with different features for each. Free is limited, then pro, and then premium is the highest one. So those need a specific amount per month per user. So for example, if you talk about pro license, that costs you $10 per user per month. So premium is also having a different costings. So, but when you talk about Power BI embedded, which is in D365 F&O, it does not add up any additional cost except the application user cost for each of the apps which you are using in F&O. That is called a base license. So by using Power BI embedded means that you will not use you will not be needing any of the additional license. So in this video we will see end-to-end scenario, and this topic is rarely covered, so I thought that I would create a end-to-end scenario in this video for the purpose. Okay, let's explore what will be covered. Basically I will cover the features of Power BI embedded, and we will also cover very interesting topic called entity store and what are the features. So the next will be entity store, and then we will also cover staging aggregate measurements in entity stores. So what are those measurements, which are basically star schema in the data warehouse, which is entity store, which is called entity store, and then how to basically enable automatic refresh for the entity store for different measures. And then we will see one sample query to make our Power BI report. I will also show you some sample screenshots for our Power BI report which we are targeting today, and then it will be followed by a demo for Power BI report and a D365 F&O analytical workspace, where I will be basically hosting this Power BI report or showing or presenting in that workspace. So let's start with the features. So first feature is Power BI, as you know, is a rich and interactive reports which seamlessly integrated with application workspaces. So when we talk about Power BI embedded, so it is basically embedded or included or integrated with the existing application workspaces available in F&O. So it is seamlessly integrated in the same application which you will be using within F&O. Like if you are having a supply chain license or if you are having a finance license, so within those modules you will see application workspaces. So you don't need to switch to any other powerbi.com or for the dashboards or any other place. You will be having the same interface like F&O. So by saying rich and interactive, Previously, we were using SSRS when talking about AX 2009 and 2012. AX 2012, we were having only option SSRS. So those reports basically were not interactive reports. To certain extent, you can put filters and parameters, and those were not although it was supported in SSRS, like graphs and pie charts and different graphical elements, but those were not interactive. Like if you click any of those objects, it will not show other graphs based on that object, and those were quite static reports. But when you talk about Power BI, those, as you know, they are covering rich and interactive reports. Then we have Power BI's visual and graphics use basically provide very high visual yet interactive user experience. So it is quite colorful visual, and there are different visuals available which you can use within Power BI. So it will basically employ the Power BI features within D365. Power BI embedded service license is bundled within application without the need to have powerbi.com subscription or licenses. The workspaces work within standard F&O apps. So these workspaces we will explore within each module. There is certainly one at least workspace available out of the box, and you can as a developer create more workspaces based on your requirement. So it will not need to have any other separate license until you are basically using powerbi.com. That is also supported. You can have license, and you can basically create a report on powerbi.com, and then you can integrate those reports as well within F&O. But today we are not talking about those reports. We are talking about, we will create one report in Power BI Designer, and then same report we will deploy on F&O as a deployable package, and then within F&O one workspace will basically show that report within D365, and there is no need of extra license. So because Power BI embedded service license is bundled within application. Okay. But as I mentioned, that if you want to have powerbi.com reports to be shown in F&O, that option is also supported. So that's why we will require, if you will need to embed those reports within Power BI, you need to have a license, and those reports will be using the the direct query in embedded reports. Okay, so what are other features? Like you can drill down into detail pages from Power BI embedded itself. Like if you are seeing any retail sales analysis, so any sales figure, if you want to drill down from where these are coming, like which facts and figures are basically making up this graph, so you can just drill down within Power BI. So that you can immediately act on the issues which are faced. So that is one of the option. Okay, then also there is ability when you are working in Power BI embedded to directly navigate to a specific tab. That can be achieved through menu items. As you know, menu items are the links in F&O. Links, wherever you click, it will open an object like a page, a form, a report. So display menu item, output menu item, and action menu item. These are three kinds available in F&O. So by saying this thing, that ability to directly navigate to a specific tab, in Power BI reports you can make different tabs, like Excel sheets. You have sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. Similarly, in Power BI report you have different tab. You can rename those tabs. So tab 1, tab 2, tab 3, or you can also say page 1, page 2, page 3. So you can switch to any page through menu item directly. Role and task security, which is the key feature in F&O to keep your data secure and to allow any authorized user to access their relevant parts. So the same security framework will be used on a menu item, because these are Power BI embedded reports. So those embedded reports will use existing role and task security that will make it a consistent security mechanism within D365. You don't need to, like if you are using powerbi.com reports, you need to have a different security for those. Maybe you are using office.com, Office 365 or Microsoft 365 licenses. So the user ID created will be used for powerbi.com, but within F&O, the same users which you create for F&O will be used to access the Power BI reports. So it will make a consistent security mechanism. Then also based on the context, application context, like if you are within one company, so you will need to the Power BI embedded supports to filter based on the user context or wherever you are. For example, you can pass the concerned products, the specific products which user is interested to see, or business unit, or a specific date range, or the company where user is basically authorized. So this context can be easily passed, or filters can be easily passed to the Power BI embedded reports. Okay, then next we have Power BI embedded service, which is basically in multi-box in deployments it is included, but in one box deployment, that is normally dev box. If you are having a dev box, this Power BI embedded service is not available for that. So this you need to keep in mind. Why? Because in multi-box deployments there are different dependencies which are available as Azure services. Power BI embedded service depends on those dependencies. So only Microsoft covers this Power BI embedded service in multi-box deployments. So in this video, we will be basically using one box environment, but we will make the deployment on the multi-box, that is a Sandbox environment, to see our data, how it works. But however, we will develop a Power BI report, and we will develop also certain part in X++ language, which covers the F&O technical part in a dev box. But how it will work, how we will see the output, it will be on the Sandbox environment. We cannot see the output except the Power BI report, but embedded in F&O we need to deploy it on the Sandbox. So this is the difference here. Okay, so we'll start what about the next topic is about the entity store. So what is entity store? Entity store is an operational data store included with D365 F&O. If you know the topic of OLTP and OLAP, if you have studied data warehousing course, you will see there is OLTP, which is transactional database, and there is OLAP, online analytical processing DB. So what is the difference between the two? OLTP is normalized database, and it have many relationship, primary foreign key relationship, but OLAP is simply put, it is a de-normalized form of the same database or the tables which are of interest in a de-normalized form. Like if you have 5-6 tables in relationship, you will make one table out of those 5-6 tables for the reporting purpose, and that will be called a data warehouse or OLAP database in order for reporting or analytics purpose. So normally it is not real time. However, normally in business scenarios, once a day you can achieve the transformation or migration of data, or based on the frequency which is required, but it is not normally not a real time thing. Okay, so entity stores enables the Power BI integration because it has the snapshot of OLTP or the AXDB, which is the transactional database. So it basically allows you to develop Power BI reports which can be embedded within F&O. So admin and power user can stage aggregate measurements in a dedicated store for reporting and analytics purpose. By staging means that you need to migrate the data. So there is certain framework available in F&O in system admin module, where you can have different option of refreshing the transactional DB to the entity store. So Those will be the tables in the data warehouse or entity store will be called aggregate measures. Okay, aggregate measurements are also called star schema. If you have heard about the measure and facts in data warehousing concept, so star schema is the fact in the middle, in the center, and around it connected are the dimension tables. Dimension tables are normally the basic code decode tables, you can say, like primary information, like employee table, like a student table, like a teachers table, like a courses table. These are dimension tables. And then fact table is called a transactional table, or within which the de-normalized form of the OLTP database is held or transformed is called a fact table. So fact tables are normally transactional tables. So a star schema is a concept in data warehousing in which basically entities are being modeled. Okay, so entity store is optimized for reporting purpose. If you know, in MS SQL Server 2016, I think, and beyond, they use the column store index, which is quite efficient than the normal indexes, which were working on row stores. And this increased the 10% performance of the reporting or query performance. So entity store is using MS SQL feature called clustered column store index, CCI in abbreviated form, to optimize the reporting and queries. As you know, if you query from a normal OLTP, you need to make so many joins within your query or views. So those joins will definitely add up the overhead while you are querying that database. So once it is entity store or a data warehouse, so data warehouse will automatically be in de-normalized form. Plus the indexing is used to sort the data within those tables of entity store. So if you use those indexing the traditional way, that is row based index, if you use the column store index, which will basically increase the 10% performance, it will be much more faster than the normal index. Okay, then user can also use Power BI direct query models with the entity store to enable high volume near real time. It is not real time, but it is up to near real time analytical reporting over large volumes of data. So once you are using direct query, there are two modes in Power BI. One is import mode and the other one is direct query. Import mode will import all the data in the Power BI file, which will be faster and more efficient, but it will increase the size of the database. But it is not practical when you have very large or huge volume of the data. Then only direct query will work. And in the direct query can be used with entity store to basically cover high volume of data, and it will be near to real time. Because in import mode, it will need an additional time to import the data first. And if it is very high volume data, it is not at all practical and not at all real time. So direct query covers the real time. Okay, if you see the graph here, what you see? The transactional DB, which I am saying OLTP in data warehousing concept, is converted to entity store or is refreshed to entity store. So all the data after converting it to de-normalized form is transformed into entity store, and then a data set is created within Power BI reports, and that data set is basically fetching the data using the direct query approach of Power BI from entity store. So transactional DB we can set in D365 which is called AXDB. How soon or how frequently it need to refresh to entity store. There are multiple options available. You can manually refresh, you can set a frequency or recurrence time for refreshing the database to entity store, and from entity store automatically using direct query update the data set, and data set is then used in Power BI reports or analytics. So if we see before there was one approach called OData. OData in D365 or any other platforms, but now we are talking about D365 F&O. Where this approach was used for creating Power BI reports that basically expose the data entities. Data entities, if you have worked in data management framework in F&O, so that data management framework basically supports the data entities which are basically tables in de-normalized form. The OLTP tables converted to single table or fact table in de-normalized form. So that was that data entities were normally aggregate data entities plus the detailed data entities or the regular data entities. So aggregate means like like there are different formula for aggregation of data, like sum or minimum, maximum, or these are the different formulas, and detail mean the transactional one. So OData was used for exposing those data entities. But OData, you know, there is a best practices that you cannot use OData for very high volume. So there is Microsoft recommendation, if you, I think 1000 records per hour is the limit or something like that. So OData cannot be used for very high volume of data. So now we have additionally entity store in F&O that will basically support Power BI direct query reports. Direct query report modes run report directly on the entity store rather than staging data in Power BI caches. So what is the difference? Power BI caches is in the import mode, but since we are using direct query mode, it will run the reports directly from the entity store. Whatever data is available in entity store, now it depends upon the refresh rates or frequency from transactional DB to entity store, how quickly it is refreshing. So direct query has multiple benefits, like you can use direct query approach for reporting over large volumes of data. Reports reflects the latest data automatically when underlying data is refreshed. You don't need to refresh again within Power BI. Once the entity store is refreshed, so reports will show the latest data automatically. Data also does not leave your environment, as AXDW or the entity store itself is a part of F&O, so the data will still reside within F&O environment. So it will not leave the environment and move to any other environment or Power BI services. And there is no cache maintained in case of like import mode. So there will be no cache maintained in this case. So aggregate measures, what are aggregate measures and what are their staging in entity store? Aggregate measurements are star schema that is modeled for analytical scenario. So two types of aggregate measures are available in F&O. As you can see on the right side in the screenshot, these are this is one of the sales cube shown here, and there are different measures available in this cube. So on the right hand side in the property, you can see there is a usage property which is showing in memory real time, and there is a staged entity store property available for this aggregate measures, which is called sales cube here. So two type of aggregate measures are available. One is real time in memory aggregate measure, and the second one is near to real time staged aggregate measurements. So what is the difference? Okay, so the real time is using non-clustered column store index NCCI based, whereas the near to real time is using clustered column store index CCI. This is the first difference. Okay, then the real time that can be used in visuals and aggregate calculation to show transactions in seconds, means it is real time. And the other one, near to real time, are for large volume of data to be used in Power BI. So in our case, we will be using the near to real time based on the high volume of the data. So as you can see, the staged entity store is near to real time, and in memory real time property is for the real time in memory aggregate measures. So column store indexes increases query performance by 10 times. That can further be increased 10 times by compression methods. So this is one of the feature which will make our entity store very fast to query from. Okay, these two types of aggregate measures can be set as shown on the right hand side using in-memory real-time or staged entity. So staged entity is always recommended for high volume data. For small subset, in-memory real-time can be used, which is the previous approach. Okay, so benefits of using staged entity stores are like large amounts of data to explore and analyze, as we have already discussed. Complexity of views or joins are avoided now, because in the old schemas we were using joins and views which were very complex in certain scenarios, which results in long response time for updating embedded visuals. So now we are avoiding by using entity store, which is staged. Development of reports is easier because entity is already designed or modeled in a specific way, so that reports are easily built by avoiding the complex joins, and also there are acceptable refresh rates are available, and normally 10 minutes for business scenarios is a typical scenario. You won't need the real time refresh rates for the entity store or for your analytics mostly. So entity store as a stage pattern is best for Power BI majority of reports. So mostly it will cover 95% scenarios when you require at least 10 minutes of refresh rates. If one of the preceding reasons covers your situation, you should stage your aggregate measurements in this entity store and it used for Power BI integration. Okay, so now as you can see on the right hand side, you will see this picture in which in this screenshot we are basically seeing one of the Sandbox data warehouse or entity store access, and you can see different measurements are available from which you can develop your Power BI reports. So there is a production cube here shown, and there is a ledger curve liquidity measurement V2, which is for the cash flow analytics, and there are many others available out of the box. So entity store refresh is automated and managed by system in the client. You can find entity store page at system administration module, setup and entity store. Okay, and if you want for debugging purpose using LCS, in case of Sandbox environment, you can get access to the database for at least 8 hours, as you can see here. Troubleshooting and tuning entity store write to XDW. This also allows you to write to XDW database, and then you can provide a reason in details and request access, and through this you can have access to the Sandbox XDW or entity store database. For DevBox, definitely XDW database is directly accessible using SQL Server Management Studio utility. So it is directly accessible. We will see in the demonstration. Okay, in this slide we are seeing here the refresh rates available, and this is the entity store available in system admin module, where you can manually refresh the specific measurement, or you can basically set a time for that, and you can see in the lookup in the recurrence lookup or drop down field every hour, this is the minimum available. Then you have once per day, then you have twice per day and once per week. These are the options available. So this will automatically refresh the entity store based on the defined frequency. However, at the top you can see there is a refresh button, and that will work manually if you want to manually refresh at that time on demand. So an admin can basically refresh aggregate measurements on demand by clicking the refresh button at top, as you can see at the top. And in future, real-time refresh will be available as soon as Microsoft is updating and adding more features. Microsoft is planning to add a real-time refresh, although it will be overhead, but this is in their plans. Also, when automated refresh is enabled, the system can disable the refresh of aggregate measurements. You must revisit aggregate measurements and validate that appropriate refresh intervals have been applied. So you need to also keep monitoring this, that at some time maybe it has not refreshed the database, so then you need to revisit the aggregate measures and validate that intervals have been applied perfectly. Okay, so this is one of the sample query which we will be basically targeting or using while developing our Power BI reports. So as you can see in the query, there is a single join put here, which will basically, there are two tables you can see. One is retail sales, retail transaction table, and the other one is retail sales worker table. So one is put alias as A and the other one B, and then I have joined on the key values, which is staff in A table and personal number in B table. So in this way I have put inner join, and then I have only included a transaction type of sales because there are multiple types available. So we are interested to see only the sales, and the transaction status should be none or posted, because the voided and other status we are not interested in. We need to see the actual sales. For that, these are the conditions. And then I'm basically making a sum aggregate function. As you can see in the select query, I am summing on the net amount, and since, as you know, that in retail transaction the net amount is shown negative, which is a actual transaction, so you need to reverse the sign as well. So for that I have reversed the sign, and the returns are shown as a positive, so that will also automatically show negative. So this is the aggregate function of sum being used here. Then in the select query you can see warehouse, that is a store, and a worker name is included, and transaction date is included. And from the transaction date I am getting this as a month format, as a 2-digit format, and 2-digit of months. And then also I am having literal for month, like January, JAN, and there is a dash or hyphen put before this. And then I am concatenating both the values using concat function, SQL function, and this will basically make it like 0, 1, hyphen, and January, JAN. So it will concatenate so that we can see our data in sorted order in Power BI. Okay, so this will be shown as a month, and then year, transaction date. From transaction data I'm getting year also, and net amount as already I discussed, and group by, then I have to group by my SQL query with the fields which are not included in aggregate function. So we can see warehouse and worker name and transaction date. This is not in aggregate, and the net amount is in aggregate, so no need to put in group by. So this is my query. Okay, so this is the report page which I will be basically creating in Power BI, and as you can see, it is having different bar graphs, and there is a donut shown showing our sales by retail channel, and the bar graphs, first bar graph on the left hand side is showing net sales by salesperson. Salesperson data is also shown, the names on the y-axis and the sales on the x-axis. And then the next visual is sales by retail channel, and you can see in y-axis we are showing the net sales in millions, and then on the x-axis we are showing the store names with the different legend, and then on the most right side at the top you can see sales by period and by retail channels. So sales by period means this is the first level is year, and above it there is a month, which as I have shown in SQL query by digit and by literals. It is in sorted form, and then there is a millions on the y-axis for the net sales, and there is a color legend shown which is not very visible, but it is to differentiate different retail channels. And then you can see a line chart here. In line chart also sales by period is shown. On y-axis net sales by millions, and then on x-axis you can see month-wise details. So line is at the beginning in January to Feb is at the top, almost I think 1.6 even more, I think 1.8 million, and then it is seeing a fall, a big fall in Feb to March period, and then it is going on almost the same pattern, and from September to October it is going again to almost I think 1.4 million, and then a slide down in November, and then again in December it is going up even before than January, higher than January. Okay, then in the pie, in the donut visual, you can see sales by retail channel. So the colors are showing different retail channels. The names are not visible here, but as you can in the actual report, if you hover your mouse over the colors, so it will show the numbers and the store names. Also there are filters for store, sale persons and period, and then also there is a small visual which will show you the numbers, the total numbers for net sales overall. So this is one of the report, and another report of the same type almost, but change with the different visuals. You can see also the similar the report or the figures. This is the report which is shown here, as you can see at the top, in F&O environment. Okay, thank you. Now we'll go for our demo session for the next starting from our Power BI report and moving to F&O.